Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, Venerable Myogen, Venerable Zhijue, and all Dharma friends joining us online. We are currently studying the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment by J. Tsongkhapa. He composed this treatise at the age of 46. It gathers the Buddha's words and arranges them as a graduated path to Buddhahood. So before we begin our shared study of this treatise, we should cultivate the following contemplations concerning the excellence of its authors and the holders of the long lineage, especially Venerable Ajisha and Master Tsongkhapa. Those most outstanding compositions is precisely the Laram channel. Okay, so let's join our palms to do this prayer before learning. To help all sentient beings across all universes, we must strive for ultimate enlightenment. The path to enlightenment begins with learning the Buddha's teachings. We're currently exploring the great treatise on the stages of the path to enlightenment. May all Buddha's Dharma, Sangha, and past practitioners empower us to deepen our understanding of the teachings and equip us to overcome our own suffering and that of others. With unwavering dedication, one day we may achieve ultimate enlightenment and establish Pure Lands. Together we can guide all sentient beings toward liberation from suffering and toward enlightenment. Let's recite the name of the Buddha 3 times, seeking the Buddha blessings for protection and guidance on our study. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha, Namo Shakyamuni Buddha. And of course, when the class begin, usually in UOA, Teacher Tang in the class, if he's going to teach a topic within Laman Chemo, he would, at the very beginning, leading us to do this kind of taking refuge and generate the aspiration to become a Buddha. He will say, I take refuge until awakening in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Supreme Assembly, Sangha, through the merit of giving and the rest that I have done. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Okay, so basically this verse is trying to tell us that the importance of learning the Dharma, firstly, we need to take refuge to the Buddha Dharma Sangha. And when we are learning the Dharma, it's important for us to aim the ultimate awakening, which is to become a Buddha. And on this way, we have to generate this aspiration. To become a Buddha is not only for our own liberation, but for the sake of helping all sentient beings be able to liberate from suffering. Ultimately, everyone will become a Buddha. So to make that happen, it is not really easy. We have to keep accumulating merits and learning as well, so that we'll be able to make ourselves on the path and not being distracted, always on the track until we reach this destination to become a Buddha. Okay, and the stage of the path, at the very beginning, this preparation state, we are talking about the importance of the author of this treatise, and also showing the greatness of the teaching in order to engender respect for the instructions. And then we'll be talking about how to listen and explain the teachings and how to lead students with the actual instructions. So all these are for anyone at the very beginning to prepare, well prepared, will be able to begin with the learning of the teachings of the Buddha, especially Islam channel. And this part, the greatness of the teaching, 教授殊胜, showing the greatness of the teaching in order to engender respect for the instructions. Here, well, we've covered the first one, the greatness of enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free of contradiction. So with this, as the main point, as the following, these are actually to try to dig more into it. Why you state that all the teachings of the Buddha are free of contradiction. Okay. So Tirtan says that when we speak of the greatness of enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free of contradiction, three preliminaries are required. First, one must identify what is meant by teachings. If we do not clearly understand what teachings are, how could we possibly comprehend them? Okay. And second, on what grounds do we assert that all the teachings are mutually non-contradictory? One must set forth the reasons by which such non-contradiction is established. And third, from the standpoint of doctrine, it must be shown that to deny this is to oppose the Buddha's word. Okay. That is, if one thinks that the teachings for the Shravakas, the hearers, are unnecessary for those of great capacity, of those Mahayana practitioners, or that for practitioners of mantra, tantric tradition, the esoteric teachings, the perfection vehicle, are dispensable. This contravenes the Buddha's intent. Okay, so in other words, such a person is not a student of this treatise. Okay. A student trained in this treatise will not fall into such inconsistencies. Whether the Buddha's word is placed as a lower vehicle or great vehicle, esoteric or esoteric, this perfection vehicle, or Vajrayana teachings, the tantric vehicle, the teachings do not conflict. The higher capacity practitioners take the lower capacity teachings as their shared path. So we're going to talk about that. And last time we've also covered this three. The first, discerning the authentic teachings, understanding the principle that all teachings are free of contradiction, using doctrine to show that any contrary assertions are contradictory. We discussed last time that a bodhisattva's aim is to accomplish the welfare of the world. That is, to lead all sentient beings from suffering to happiness. To do so, a bodhisattva must possess the capacity to benefit beings of every disposition. Hence, he or she embraces as the objects of guidance those of small, medium, and great capacity, and must learn the teachings appropriate to all three. To be able to give them teachings in different levels. These are precisely the doctrines we must understand, and they are in no way to odds with the three graded paths. If we study the great vehicle, we must also study the paths of the lower and the medium capacities and the trainings of for persons of small and middling capacity. Why? Because those trainings give rise to the great path. Without relying on higher rebirth or a better state and definite liberation as the causal basis, one cannot engender bodhicitta, the separation to become a Buddha. So that means if we are not looking forward to have a better next lifetime, or even aiming for this ultimate liberation from samsara, from all the sufferings. Okay, these are very basic. If without these two, how would one be able to generate this bodhicitta, aiming to become a Buddha? So bodhicitta aims to free beings from cyclic existence. If we ourselves have no wish to be free of samsara, of all these suffering. How could we possibly free others? Okay, the Chitatan asked. Thus, the path of great capacity takes the trainings of the lower two as its shared path. We'll be explaining further about this. One must know how to instruct those of small and middling capacity in ways that accord with their abilities. Therefore, whether one seeks to practice the highest path or to benefit others effectively, one must learn the three levels of the path for exactly these reasons. We must first generate in ourselves a firm and correct understanding so that we can inspire in all sentient beings an unwavering confidence in the teachings and the resolve to practice. Thus, every bodhisattva must turn toward sentient beings, possess skill in guiding them, and hold an unerring understanding of the Dharma. As Dhammakirti states in his commentary on the Compendium of Valid Cognition, a bodhisattva who teaches beings must be equipped with various skillful means and must comprehend the Dharma. In other words, unless a bodhisattva understands the teachings, it is difficult to expound their meaning to others. So this treatise is addressed to those who are capable of reasoning. Teacher say, such persons are its proper students. If we possess the capacity for reasoning, we can readily understand the three scopes of the path. Without the means to gain understanding, we will neither comprehend the three scopes nor have them arise as realizations in our own minds. So how could we possibly explain them to others? Therefore, students of the stages of the path of enlightenment should not think, once I've read the path of the lower scope, I understand the lower scope. One must understand the interrelation of the three scopes and gain a genuine grasp of each. Then, for someone seeking higher rebirth, teach the path of the lower scope. For one aspiring to personal liberation, teach the path of the middling scope. And for those inclined toward the great vehicle, teach the path of the great scope, while taking the lower and middling paths as the shared basis of the great vehicle practice. Okay, so now we are on the fourth, establishing the reasons for the non-contradiction of the teachings. Here, there are shared and unshared paths to enter the Mahayana, since the shared are those things that come from the scriptural collections of the Hinayana. How could they be something to set aside? 去入大乘道者有共不共二种道，共者即是列圣藏中所说诸道，此等合因而成应舍。When entering the Mahayana path, there are two kinds of paths, shared and unshared. The shared paths are those extensively taught in the scriptural collections of Hinayana or Shravaka, Vinaya as well. Taking refuge, karma, and its results, contemplating the general and particular sufferings of samsara, and generating the renunciation that seeks liberation from them. And the Four Noble Truths, the 12 causal links of dependent rising, and the training in the three higher trainings. Here, contemplate and practice cultivation. In short, these are precisely the contents of the paths shared with the lower and middle capacity practitioners. How could such paths be something to discard? Therefore, apart from a few distinctive elements, such as aspiring only to one's own peace and quiescent happiness. Everything else must be cultivated, even by a Mahayana practitioner. This is exactly why the Vaipoya extensive sutras of the Bodhisattvas expound at length the teachings of all three vehicles. Meaning, like in this treatise, in this sutras, Vaipoya Sutra, yeah, all these teachings, including the three vehicles, not only for one particular vehicle, but three vehicles altogether. It's not only saying like the importance of becoming Buddha is by only practicing the great capacity. No, yeah. Well, all these teachings being taught by the Buddha in different times to different people, all can come into this path to ultimate enlightenment. As we mentioned last time, although all are the Buddha's teachings, why speak of higher scopes and lower scopes? Is that a prejudice or bias? Just as we discussed, in relation to the Buddha's profound presentation of ultimate truth, there are expedient methods that do not directly express the ultimate. And in relation to the superior vehicle of the Mahayana, the Hinayana is termed the lesser vehicle. Thus, calling it lesser is not a disparagement of its doctrines. No more than calling elementary school elementary is a slur on basic education. It is merely a difference in designation relative to the Mahayana, just as university is designated in relation to earlier schooling. In the Dharma, there is no valid reason to discard the shared paths, no matter how advanced someone believes they are. If they claim they need not train in the paths of the lesser or even the middling capacity, they are mistaken. There is no legitimate cause for abandoning those paths and then generating the great capacity path. Likewise, there is no proper basis for practicing Tantra without the foundations of the Sutra system. Okay, so when we here I highlight this He Yin, this is the right cause. What is the right cause? It's not actually in this English translation, but to reason, to give a reason, a proper reason why all these teachings considered lesser vehicles or medium scope, why these are all important, because they are shared teachings to a Mahayana practitioner. That means you should not, as a Mahayana practitioner, underestimate the importance of these shared paths, the lower, the medium scopes. Okay, therefore, Mahayana followers must practice all those things taught in the Hinayana scriptural collections, with only a few exceptions, such as diligently seeking a blissful peace for oneself alone. 故除少分希求，独自极尽乐等不共者外，所欲一切虽大圣人亦应修持。The intention of the lesser vehicle must be abandoned. The intention of the lesser vehicle must be abandoned. But the practices of the lesser vehicle are shared paths of the Mahayana. Thus, from the Mahayana perspective, they are not called the lesser vehicle. Okay, this is important. To relinquish the lesser intention is not to eliminate its practices. Once you recognize the lesser vehicle as common to the Mahayana, those very practices become practices on the path to Buddhahood. Teacher Tang said. When does Dharma become Mahayana? Only when a person generates bodhicitta does that Dharma become Mahayana. Likewise, when a person generates renunciation, that Dharma becomes the vehicle of liberation. When a person seeks the prosperity and happiness of future human and divine rebirths, the better next life. That dharma becomes a path of better rebirth. What does that mean? Okay. Whether dharma is great or lesser is never decided on the side of the teachings themselves. It is decided by the practitioner's motivation. Practitioner's motivation. Therefore, one's intention must not be diligently seeking a blissful peace for oneself alone, nor diligently seeking liberation for oneself alone, no, for one's own sake. For such attitudes, turn all the Dharma into the lesser vehicle, meaning not really aiming for the Buddha vehicle or the ultimate enlightenment. Accordingly, if a person cultivates the paths of the lesser and middling capacities with bodhicitta, that person is not practicing the path to better rebirth nor the vehicle of liberation. Rather, they are training in the Mahayana together with its shared paths. Thus, whether teaching is Mahayana or not is determined by the practitioner's mindset, teacher's mindset. This is why for someone who has generated bodhicitta, even reflections on karma and its results, or on the inevitability of death and impermanence, are shared paths of the great vehicle. Not instances of a great capacity practicing the lesser vehicle's path, because the attitudes of solitary blissful peace and self-only liberation have been eliminated. Therefore, what we must dispel is the lesser vehicle attitude of seeking personal liberation for oneself alone. However, all the categories of the lesser vehicle teachings are precisely what a Mahayana practitioner ought to cultivate. Okay, this is highly mentioned by Teacher Tang. Okay, next. This is the reason for extensively teaching all three vehicles in the very vast scriptural collections of the Bodhisattvas. 五诸菩萨方广藏中广说三乘其因相者亦即此也. I also highlight this 因相 as reason. So here, all talking about the reason why, as a bodhisattva, to cultivate all these so-called lesser vehicles are important. Is important. Of course, they are important for Mahayana practitioners. These are all the teachings of the Buddha. Also, all the teachings to help one to become a Buddha eventually. To help this becoming a Buddha possible. Okay. This vast scriptural collections of the Bodhisattva refers in particular to the Vaipoya extensive discourses, interpretation by elaboration or deeper explanation of the doctrine within the 12 divisions of the Buddha's words. As classified under the three baskets, the Tripitaka, in Vaipoya collection, the Bodhisattva path is explained at length, and the three vehicles are taught in detail. Why present the three vehicles? Because the paths of the three vehicles function as the shared path of the Mahayana. Therefore, they must be broadly taught and widely studied. Okay, talk about the so-called Sanzang, the three baskets of Tripitaka, the Sutra, Vinaya, and Abhidharma. And as for the 12 divisions of the Buddha's words, the sutra, of course, these scriptures that are the short, medium, and long discourses expounded by the Buddha on various occasions. So all gathered, we have various sutras. And Gaya, the metrical pieces. So basically, why we have this part, like Gaya part, is because, there will be, huge assembly. A lot of people gather together and listening to the Buddha. At the time, there is no speaker. There will be no microphone. So basically, a small group of people surrounding the Buddha, and they will be listening carefully and trying to memorize everything possibly. Okay, so these group of people, they will listen more clearly at a time because they are more closer to the Buddha. And so for those outside, of the circle, you can imagine like circles of people, and Buddha is in the middle, and a lot of people won't be able to listen to the Buddha because the sound, the voice was too small. They would not be able to get whatever the Buddha was teaching. However, because these people will recite again whatever the Buddha had taught. Okay, so it became something that they will recite probably together later, or probably to explain later for these people who were not being able to listen to the Buddha's voice. Uh, so they will get the meaning. And through this Gaya, will be able to easily memorize the content. Yeah, that's why there will be like songs, like poems, easily to get the meaning of the teachings. And then there will be prophecies, verses, or poems, of course. And then there will be unsolicited addresses. Like, for example, when the Buddha was teaching something related to, well, what is the universe? And there are universes, a lot of Buddhas in different directions. And, past like millions eons ago, there was some sort of the bodhisattva who did so and so, and some Buddha was teaching something. All these, the Buddha would not be able to wait until someone asked question. Buddha had to just tell people what was going on. And there will be causes and conditions of the Buddha's teachings, and there will be parables, metaphors, the sutras in which the Buddha tell of the deeds of their disciples and others in previous lives, and also the stories of the former lives of the Buddha, and also this Vaipoya, 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 yes. Here, and miracles, and also commentaries and treatises. When the Buddha expound by way of analysis and debate, those teachings are classed under the Abhidharma, Shastra category of the Tripitaka. Thus, Sutra, Vinaya, and Shastra are all the Buddha's words. For example, when the Buddha engages in discussion or dialectical reasoning, these fall under the Shastra Pitaka called Upadesha. This shows that in addition to delivering discourses, the Buddha also taught by a distinct mode of doctrinal analysis. Treatises are not only something later bodhisattvas or masters composed. As for treatises authored by bodhisattvas and later masters, those are subsequent expositions that interpret and systemize the Buddha's sutras and Vinaya, and they are grouped within the Shastra Pitaka. But that is merely the later stages, analytical elucidation of the Buddha's word. The three best kids themselves are all the teachings of the Buddha coming out from the Buddha's mind or the teachings, words out of his mouth, so to speak. Okay, furthermore, a perfect Buddha has not extinguished just a portion of faults and accomplished a mere portion of good qualities, but rather has extinguished all types of faults and accomplished all types of good qualities. 复次正辩觉者，非尽少过，远少分得，是辩断尽一切种过周遍圆满一切种德。This part is how an enlightened being benefits him or herself. Okay, so all types of faults, including the faults of those in the small, medium, and great capacities, must be eliminated to become a Buddha. Bodhisattvas, too, must continually remove their faults. For example, the fault of not understanding the teachings, the fault of having an unstable resolve, or the fault of lacking sufficiently broad knowledge to benefit sentient beings. Only by studying the teachings, especially the Buddha's words, organized by the stages of the path, can one exhaustively cut off every kind of fault. For example, if a bodhisattva fails to learn the shared paths, that as well is a bodhisattva's fault. Relying on the thorough understanding of the teachings, one first generates inferential cognition of the teachings and, through repeated familiarization, gives rise to the direct recognition. Only then can one completely eliminate faults and bring qualities to perfection. So this perfect Buddha, or in Chinese translation, perfectly complete awakening, what we ordinarily translate as Anuttara Samyok Sambodhi, is unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. That is, perfect omniscience, one of the 10 Buddha's names. Okay, so they're called the perfect Buddha. It's not, so that was paused because this was not a typo or anything, but just another name of the Buddha. Now, that's why it's been called the perfect awakening or the perfect Buddha. Okay. Mahayana practitioners seek to achieve this, since they will then eliminate all faults and develop all good qualities, all the different types of good qualities derived from the elimination of faults and the acquisition of knowledge within every other vehicle are included in the Mahayana path. 能承办此所有大圣，亦灭众过，备己众德，故大圣道。遍摄一切余乘，所有一切断正得类。Okay, here this passage is especially talking about the Buddha's altruistic activity. So able to accomplish all of the Mahayana, meaning he established the great vehicle so that beings may eliminate all faults and develop all good qualities. This is truly extraordinary. In reality, to abandon all faults and perfect all virtues takes a very long time. If the person does not change their temperament, fails to counteract afflictions, and remains bound by habits, then 10 years later, they may be exactly the same. And many reach the end of life unchanged, Teacher Tang said. Thus, while the Buddha's own aims are fully perfected, the altruistic side is also hard to bring to full completion in others. The Buddha practices generosity, for example, yet we may remain poor. He upholds this discipline, all these precepts, yet we continue to create virtuous deeds. He is patient, of course, yet we still quarrel and content. He's energetic, very diligent, yet we lie flat. Lie flat. Yeah, there is a term, 躺平 in Chinese. Lie flat. With little interest in the Dharma. He abides in meditative concentration for sure, yet our mind still scattered. He realizes happiness, yet we cling to true existence, this intrinsic existence. Therefore, the statement, the elimination of faults and the acquisition of knowledge found within every other vehicle are included within the Mahayana path, describes the Buddha's perfectly complete altruistic intention. It does not claim that beings are in fact all brought to the point of eliminating every fault and acquiring every excellence. How could they be easy? How could that be easy? When Shakyamuni Buddha dwelt in Shravasti, this town, this city, he labored to teach and guide beings. Yet, at his passing, it is said that in Shravasti, 1/3 did not even know there was such a person as the Buddha. 1/3 had approached him but gained no benefit, and 1/3 had truly benefited. You can imagine. Okay. We often say that the success in life depends on opportunity. But even when favorable conditions arise, they may not bear fruit. Merely seeing the Buddha does not guarantee benefit. Sometimes someone possesses only causes, and the Buddha would tell them causes alone are insufficient. Conducive conditions must reach completion. At other times, one may have abandoned conditions, and the Buddha would say, even 100 favorable conditions are useless without the requisite causes. So meaning like, okay, I think I'm smart enough. The Buddha will say, no, you need help. Without help, you won't be able to achieve the Buddhahood. And someone say, okay, so I should rely on all these good conditions, and now I have all these favorable conditions. And the Buddha will tell you, no, without sincere motivation, you won't achieve the Buddhahood. We praise those who have opportunities. But what then? Many met Marpa, the translator, the great master of Milarepa, the great teacher of Milarepa. The one who truly gained the essence was only the Milarepa. Some still thought Milarepa was nothing special, merely another religious teacher. In short, the Buddha's altruism refers to the perfection of his intent to benefit beings. Okay, this perfection intent the Buddha has. Really, sincerely wanting to benefit all sentient beings. It does not mean that, as a matter of historical fact, every sentient being is thereby caused to eliminate all faults and develop all good qualities. Okay. Therefore, every scripture is included as a branch of the Mahayana path for achieving Buddhahood. 是故一切智言，悉皆摄入成佛大圣之道之分中。Finally, the Mahayana path is called a composite path, a path with many parts, okay? Both the shared path and the unshared path are its constituent factors, branches, like a vehicle, which the hood, the wheels, axle, and seats are all essential parts enabling it to move. So too, the paths of the lower, intermediate, and the great capacities are, strictly speaking, all constituents of the Mahayana path. Among these constituents, some are shared and some are unshared, but all serve as parts that together complete the Mahayana path. Okay. For these is no saying of the sage that does not extinguish some fault or develop some good quality, and all those. There is none that a Mahayana practitioner does not practice. 你能忍也无其福能尽过失，或令发生一功德故，又比一切大圣人亦无不成本故。What this passage states is that the virtues of all three vehicles are fully accomplished by a Mahayana practitioner. How are they accomplished? Only by studying and practicing the stages of the path to incorporate all these different vehicles, then this will be happening. The Mahayana practitioner, so-called, will be there. Otherwise, no other routes, no alternative routes, said by Teacher Tang. Question. In order to enter the perfection vehicle of the Mahayana, you do not need the paths that are explained in the Hinayana scriptural collections. However, in order to enter into the Vajrayana, the paths of the perfection vehicle are not shared in common with the paths of Vajrayana because the paths are incompatible. 摄作是云：若入波罗蜜多大圣虽须列圣法藏所说诸道，然于去入金刚圣者度彼岸圣所有诸道非为共同道不顺故。Here you can tell the questioner already knows Buddhism and has been studying it. Yet there is a major misunderstanding, Teacher Tang said. Anyone who can pose a question like this is no ordinary person. No ordinary person. And it's genuinely hard to answer. Master Tsongkhapa answers it in a specific way. We will follow his explanation to clear our doubts. Okay, if people have this kind of doubts, we should take a look at how Master Tsongkhapa explained to this question. So Teacher Tang, kind of like trying to push it, push the question, more like it's really a problem. The paths are incompatible. Okay, on the surface, okay, it seems true. Yeah, true. Practitioners of the three vehicles are taught to sever craving and attachment, right? To stop all the craving and attachment, that would be better. In the Mahayana, generosity counters the craving of miserliness. Like craving is also not good. Ethics restrains worldly defilements, right? Now, so once someone upholding the precepts will be able to restrain from worldly defilements, patience, remedies, anger, and so on. Okay, each perfection functions to cut worldly desires, like 6 perfections of wisdom, right? Where there is no craving, there is no grasping. Where there is no anger, patience naturally arises. In essence, the 6 perfections are a training in relinquishing desire, right? Okay, so you can see this basic teachings taught, to all the hearers, Pratyeka Buddhas even, if they been trained previous lives, all these bodhisattvas in Mahayana teachings, especially this perfection vehicle, they've been taught, right? Desire is not good, craving is not good. Okay, especially those desires like only suit to one's own benefits. Yeah, like sensual desire fulfillments, all these like that. So we should cut off all these, right? It's not good. But when you enter Vajrayana, desire appears to be taken as the path. We hear of the great forms of desire, anger, and delusion. These are actually in Vajrayana sometimes important, okay, to one's practice toward Buddhahood. Take, for example, Vajra Yogini as the fierce aspect. You see the boar-faced here, like here. And also Yamantaka as the bull-headed, wrathful form, seemingly at odds with the Buddha's instruction to the 3 vehicles to abandon desire and attachment. Hence, some conclude that Vajrayana is a separate shortcut to Buddhahood that does not need the sutra shared path. Indeed, right? Indeed, many modern presentations of Tantra undervalue that common groundwork, Mahayana, or the three vehicles. Okay, reply. This too is most unreasonable. No. The substance of the path of the perfection vehicle comprises the thought that is the development of the spirit of enlightenment and the deeds of training in the six perfections. 此即非理，以度彼岸道之体性，悉皆摄入，意乐位于菩提发心，行为修学六道彼岸。Frankly, among the four Tibetan traditions, Zhang said, Shaka, Gyatru, Nyingma, and Gelug, only the Gelug school consistently emphasizes the indispensability of the shared path for tantric success. In fact, a practitioner should regard the sutra shared path as mandatory for tantra, for tantric practice. Because without the doctrinal foundation of the Mahayana teachings, or the three vehicle teachings, tantric practice will not succeed, Teacher Zhang said. Consider Master Atisha, for example. Though accomplished in many tantras, he still sailed to Sumatra to study bodhicitta with Master Salinka, clearly prioritizing the Mahayana path. Likewise, Tsongkhapa, despite extensive tantric training, saw the Madhyamika teachings, correct view, and even wished to travel to India to perfect it. Without the shared paths, Tantra cannot be accomplished and can easily lead to serious faults. So the problem remains. On the face of it, the three vehicles make abandoning desire the method, whereas Vajrayana seems to make desire the method. What then is to be done? Siddhartha asked. Yes. That those must be relied upon on all occasions is set forth in the Vajra climax tantra. Even to save your life, do not give up the spirit of enlightenment. 是则一切定因习尽，如圣金刚顶云：纵为活命故，不应舍决心。决心 the spirit of enlightenment. In the tantric texts, the spirit of enlightenment is treated as something more precious than life itself. What does this mean? It means if preserving spirit of enlightenment requires giving up one's life, then someone, as a practitioner, would rather die. In Vajrayana explanation, spirit of enlightenment refers precisely to bodhicitta, both the aspirational bodhicitta and the engaged bodhicitta, 愿菩提心, 行菩提心, and neither may ever be abandoned. In other words, both are the common path required for Tantra. And these two are within the teachings of Mahayana. Aspirational bodhicitta is the vow to attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Engaged bodhicitta, on the other hand, is the practice of the six perfections and myriad virtues that actualizes that vow. In other words, aspirational bodhicitta sets the goal, while engaged bodhicitta is the path to reach it. Both forms are cultivated entirely for the welfare of all beings, not for oneself. For one who enters the Vajra vehicle, the single most vital core of life is bodhicitta. Okay. Only practitioners of great courage and diligence enter Vajrayana. They will not squander time in cyclic existence. Therefore, they regard bodhicitta as higher than life itself and guard it with their very lives. Okay. Here, another still from the tantric teachings. And the deeds of the six perfections should never be cast aside. Further, such is said in many tantric texts. 又云六度彼岸行，毕竟不应舍。又语咒教，宣说非义. Okay, so in short, J. Tsongkhapa is saying, if you would ask this question, you must first consult the tantric texts. Go take a look carefully at your teachings, in tantric teachings. Yeah. The Buddha clearly mentioned the importance of practicing Mahayana. And Mahayana teachings, of course, also include the lower, the medium capacities. Such texts also state that on frequent occasions of entering mandalas of highest Yoga Tantra, you must take both the shared and the unshared tantric vows. 众多去入无上瑜伽曼陀罗时，亦多说虚受供不供二种律仪. So now it's talking about tantric vows. Okay, when we before talking about this tantric vows, the mandala here, through offering to the mandala, its palace and sentience and container world, retinue and ritual implements, accumulate vast stores of merit. Realize the essential heart of the practice. A mandala is, in short, a practice of extracting the essence of the teaching. So some people will explain, okay, mandala literally means circle. But here, according to the lineage gurus, mandala is for extracting the essence of the teachings of the Buddha. What is the essence? The mandala palace you contemplate. This would be the sentience and container world. Now, what is sentience? Sentience are the principal deity, the attendant deities, and the retinue. So when we trying to visualize this or making this mandala, if you're making this mandala, of course, if you try to draw or visualize the mandala, there will be like principal deity and also the attendant deities and also retinue of this, like followers of these deity. Container world is the palace itself with its adornments and all the symbolic emblems. So you have this very beautifully decorated mandala, and this mandala is actually to show the Buddhas or the deities Pure Land or Dharma palace. Okay, so all these includes, you can see from this mandalas, and there might have some arrows, blades, and so on. Like Manjushri, sometimes Manjushri Bodhisattva holds a sword. The thousand-armed, thousand-eyed Avalokiteshvara bears a Dharma implement in each hand, right? Dharma instrument in each hand. The sentients are the deity and retinue. The container world is the mandala palace and its symbolism. Okay, so basically these. And you have the saint mandalas, right? By means of these mandala images, whether a painted mandala, a sand mandala, or visualization mandala, born of firm conviction, you make vast offerings and thereby amass an immense accumulation of merit. This shows how crucial the Mahayana accumulation of merit is. So merit is important, especially a mandala offering. Many people think dharma is just practice. I don't need to cultivate intention. So long as I'm true to myself, that's enough. They do not understand that merit is obtained in dependence on sentient beings. So you cannot lock yourself in a room and thinking that, okay, I'm doing something good to myself, I'm sincere, I'm all very wholesome, I'm not harming anyone. And I'm visualizing all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I'm actually building this good, firm connection with the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Then I'm practicing the Dharma. No, Teacher Tang says. The merit is obtained in dependence on sentient beings. Sentient beings. Only then does one extracting the essence of the teaching. The mandala involves many contemplations. It is not only sentience and container world, it includes numerous yogas of correspondence. Only by gathering a vast store of merit do you have the good fortune to realize the essence and give rise to the power of wisdom. The reason many people cannot bring forth insight is closely tied to an insufficiency of merit. Tirthan says, it is a pity that even among those studying the Mahayana, this point is often not understood. So cultivating merits, like the very first path among these five paths, the first one is merit accumulation. Merit accumulation is not only merely studying the text, but also physically get involved into communities. When they are practicing the Dharma, you can serve them. Creating very good environment, cooking even to provide food, or just to facilitate the teachings, be smoothly, expound and benefit people. All these should put into account of accumulating merits. Okay, so I think we should stop here because there are still some points we may discuss next time. But I would like to listen to both variables or Shojin, Bodhisattva. Please share your thoughts after listening to today's sharing, if it's possible.
Thank you, Teacher Davison. I have many thoughts, but I'll just share one. One was on this part about the mandalas and then talking about understanding them through like people and community and space, like the basically the conventional world, right? Like you can be in your room or in a Dharma hall and have really wonderful, beautiful visualizations and highly detailed kind of creative process. And there's this part with tantric or Vajrayana practice where we also try to see the world that we live in, right, as an emanation of the mandala as well, so that all beings become like the principal deity, like the teacher becomes the principal deity, and the other deities and attendants are the other sentient beings that we're meeting. And the spaces that we're in are the pure land of that particular deity or the mandala of that deity. I think this connects very well with like, Teacher Tong talking about Pure Land in general, right? That when we're in the Dharma hall, we try to transform that and see our teacher as like Amitabha Buddha. And this is like an extra layer of that where we're seeing everything as the mandala itself, right? So that when we're going through our daily life, we're interacting with people and situations and circumstances as if we're interacting directly with the deity and the world of the mandala, right? So it's all becoming kind of melting together or overlapping in a way. Not just like a private space, internal world, and then there's the real world I don't like and I don't want to deal with, or that I'm very attracted to, or I want everything, all this afflictive world. Um, so yeah, I was just wanting to point out that kind of that similarity with the Pure Land approach and talking about Guru Yoga, but then that part that's sometimes missed with Vajrayana, that there's like my Vajrayana world, and then there's life, right? And my Vajrayana world will improve my life, rather than them becoming synonymous. Um, and why we're practicing Vajrayana. I think that that part's quite rich. That question that was asked about the incompatibility of Vajrayana with Mahayana path, or, for example, people will talk about renunciation, right? Like, oh, renunciation is incompatible with like a true pure Mahayana spirit, or renunciation is incompatible with a Vajrayana practice because we have to use desire. But bodhicitta itself is a kind of purified desire, I believe, right? It's not coming into Vajrayana thinking we're going to get powers, or if I practice, a million of a mantra, I'll get a lot of money, or I'll get a promotion, or the best marriage or something. This is just ordinary desire, but like fancy, complicated. So yeah, these kinds of things came up. I think they're quite good to, be clear what Vajrayana is. Well, my 2 cents. Thank you.
Uh, if it's okay, I'd like to kind of add on to what you said, Venerable. Am I coming through okay?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, we can
Okay.
listen. We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Uh, Venerable, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I was kind of gonna go in that same direction, especially after the conversations we had today about the Lotus Sutra. But um, I, yeah, we briefly mentioned Marpa and Milarepa, and my background is in Drigu Kaju school, and I think one of the things that was really kind of stressed in a lot of our practice, because it is a very tantric heavy school and lineage, um, is that there is often that sort of duality between like the Vajra world and the Saha world. But from our perspective in our practice was often of like going past that duality, often with like Mahamudra practice, but with also with Tantra specifically of having the mandala and the guru yoga and yidam practice of whatever your particular Buddha or Bodhisattva it is that you're working with is taking that even beyond of when you're doing the visualization and the practices of in the everyday world is seeing uh, that the effort and intention of diligence of continuing that renunciation and putting the mind in the mindset frame of seeing the world that you are in, and the occupants of the mind and reality, that distinction fades away. That samsara is nirvana. That distinction starts to. The goal is to make that, I guess, vanish, right? Um, so I don't know if that's making a lot of sense, but um, uh, I want to preface that it is 1 in the morning, so my brain is a little bit tired. But um, yeah, I think how you explained it is really articulate. But just wanted to tack on that from the Kaju lineage tradition. We did try often to that be like a focal point in the tantric practices. The other thing that I wanted to mention, which I found was really interesting, is that there's often this distinction between, um, like you said, Hinayana being kind of like used as like a derogatory or lower or less than school, and Mahayana and Vajrayana being, like the emphasis of it being like a higher or better school, and that being a falsehood when it's looked at in the correct view. uh what I find interesting is that there the entirety of the Hinayana is in within the Mahayana. All of the sutras include um, the texts and the practices and the beginning stages of the path that exist within a lot of the earlier schools of Buddhism and the Pali Canon. And that wasn't something until I kind of like realized relatively recently, um, that even like the most fundamental beginning kind of aspects isn't it doesn't mean it's lower. It's like you said, it's like elementary school, right? Of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, but that's reflected in kind of like any direction that you're looking in any of the texts or the teachings. So yeah, nothing really to kind of add as like educated kind of response, more just a personal subjective observation of today's class.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, that was all I had to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing. Yes,
sorry.
exactly. Yeah, so here when we talk about this story, the Melpa and Milarepa, is for example, there, of course, the relationship or whatever they were mainly focused on will be more like Vajrayana teachings. However, at the very beginning, when the training period, all these difficulties Milarepa went through, all these were like very physical, carrying all these heavy rocks and building all the stupas. All these were actually also kind of like to eliminate all his unwholesome karmas uh, that he accumulated in the past. Like he killed a lot of people, and uh, from that perspective, I think a lot of like a ascetic practices. Well, these are actually, of course, with the instructions of the Buddha to go through all these hardships in probably a long meditation or thousands of prostrations. All these will be the ways to actually help us to improve on the way to the Buddhahood. And so it's sometimes we say like Vajrayana will be the fast way, to like attain the Buddhahood. But actually the foundation is very important. Having this foundation will be able to understand the whole meaning behind all these tantra practices, all these rituals, profoundly, that's for sure. And nowadays, people don't know in terms of not being able to, spend enough time in studying all these treatises, or will be able to actually get into all these deep meanings of the Buddha's teachings, like Madhyamika treatises done by Nagarjuna Bodhisattva. All these texts are important for one when cultivating toward Buddhahood, will be able to really understand the reality of the world better, uh, and now, of course, know the reality of self better. So I think this is very good to point out uh, the importance of uh, these three vehicles to Mahayana teachings, a shared path, and Mahayana teachings to Vajrayana teachings, the shared path. Venerable Zhijie, do you have anything to share?
Sorry. Sorry, I had to ask Venerable to like turn off his speaker. Yeah. Uh, there's a lot of being said, and I don't have any like additions, but I can share like a story if you don't mind. If you don't mind, teacher Davison, to return to like one slide back where monks are doing Sun Mandala. Yeah, thank you. I think there's something like interesting and very wonderful and miraculous about the idea of building sand mandalas. I had an opportunity to see it uh, twice in my life, both during the Moscow Buddhist Festival, and it's like at least 7 to 10 days of hard work. Like monks are bent in this very difficult position where probably your back hurts for hours and hours, building section by section, detail by detail of this wonderful, incredible mandala. And in the end, like you can, especially if you go to the festival every day, you can see how slowly this beautiful picture grows and gains all the details and all the work. And then there's the last day when you can finally see finished mandala, and it's incredibly beautiful. And you have only one day usually to enjoy this incredible beautiness and go around mandala and get your blessing and so. And then there's a moment where mandala is destroyed in just like a few movements. All like a week of work destroyed by like a movement of a brush. And what's exciting about that is like it's a reminder, of course, it's a reminder of like impermanence of everything and that everything is coming to an end. But in this instance, people who came to watch for this process, they don't feel grief, they don't feel sadness. There's so much excitement usually about all of that, all of that happening. That's basically all I wanted to say. Sorry.
Yes, yes. So this is also the same. Like it's hard for us to accomplish a Pure Land like place, like the academy now we're studying in. It takes years to make this happen. So during the process of making this possible, of course, this is difficult. But for those who are making this possible, they can benefit the most. Yeah. As for those who are, walking by, taking pictures, or staying for just very few short moments, they might not get too much, probably some kind of movement and moves, being moved by the effort of all these lamas, or like the academy, they've been moved by the efforts done by Teacher Tan, Teacher Lin, and many other senior members, of course, yeah. But for those who actually make this happen, Teacher Tan, Teacher Lin, and all these senior members, they will learn the most and they'll gain the most. Yeah. So for us, we should kind of have trying to have this kind of initiative. Like, if this is possible, I want to get involved. I want to be part of this. Yeah. Like I want to learn how to make the Zen mandala, for example. In the future, I want to make a Pure Land. Yeah, even though this will be a very difficult challenge to make it happen. However, through this process, I will gain the most. I will learn the most. Yeah. And I will, of course, will be benefiting a lot of people who just walk by or just pay a visit. They will also learn something uh, from this process. So this is one side, and the other side is like one day, okay, these will come to an end. However, I won't be regret. I won't be regret. I will be grateful for what I have done in the past. Yeah. Even all come to an end. I did not waste the time when I was building it. I did not waste the time when I established, and then gave a lot of teachings afterwards. When it come to an end, I know that another journey of mine has begun. Yeah. So these are something we can learn from while observing all these lamas creating these mandalas. Okay, thank you, the Shojin Bodhisattva and two venerables. Thank you for sharing. Shojin, you want to say something?
Yeah, really quick. Uh, Venerable Myogen is familiar with my previous old Sangha, Urban Dharma under Dorje Lopan Hanlai, but we had a Mani, I think it was like 100, like an international 100 million Mani mantra recitation that was going on, and we took part of it at our center. And it was like us, the Sangha, probably for 2, 3 days straight, taking shifts, just chanting the Mani mantras, while the senior lamas and kempos and rinpoches from Jugen Kagyu lineage were there working on a Sen mandala, and we the Sangha, we all kind of took part to help them, and we ended up putting a camera above them, and we made a 3-day time lapse of them creating the mandala. And it's really stunning to see it happen. Instead of over the course of 3 days, it's in like 6 or 7 minutes. Um, and I was just mentioning, if you all wanted to, I can share that with you, because I think it's a really precious video that uh, I feel like I was really fortunate enough to be there when that occurred, and I always love to share it with people whenever the opportunity arises.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, now we dedicate our merits at the end of this lesson. May the merit gained from this practice adorn the Buddha's Pure Land. May it repay the kindness of parents, sentient beings, teachers, and three jewels from above, and relieve the suffering of those in the hell, hungry ghost, and animal realms below. May those who see or hear of this practice generate the aspiration for ultimate enlightenment. When this life ends, may we be born together in the land of ultimate bliss. We pray to all Buddhas of 10 directions, past, present, and future, to all Bodhisattvas and Mahasattvas, Mahaprajna Pramita. Amitofo. Thank you.